Welcome to our Owlbear tutorial.
Hey everyone, welcome to another D&D Nolzur's Marvelous Miniatures Paint Night with WizKids, Vallejo, and Realm Smith. Tonight we tackled the Owlbear. I'm super excited about it. It's one of my favorite creatures. Throughout the tutorial, we have pause screens. When you see that pause screen, pause your video so that you can complete that technique and then unpause it when you're ready to continue. Let's do this.
So the first thing we're going to need is the D&D Nolzur's Marvelous Miniatures Unpainted Owlbear by WizKids. A variety of brushes, including some layer brushes and some base coat brushes, the Vallejo dry brush, water pot, paper towel, and a paint palette. As far as Vallejo paint colors go, we're using paints from the game color line, including black, heavy violet, tan, a violet ink, heavy warm gray, sepia wash, and black wash, khaki, elfic flesh, somber gray, charred brown, orange fire, and a gold yellow. So to apply the base coat here, we're going to start off with a Vallejo P54 number 2 Torre brush. It's my heavy lifting kind of base coat brush. And we're using heavy violet. Now the extra opaque colors from Vallejo are great because they go on a lot thicker and basically in one coat. So they're designed really to provide kind of a single coat in one kind of pass. I always add a little bit of water to my paints just to help them flow a bit better, but you don't want to do that too much here because you really want a solid purple coat. Now we're going to apply this heavy violet all over the feather areas and the fur areas as well, basically all over the mini. You don't want to be, or you don't have to be too careful at this stage to get it onto areas that aren't going to be purple because we're going to be coating those afterwards. So you just want to go in and coat all of the areas that are going to be purple in the end. Next thing we're going to do here is we're going to go through and pick out all of the lighter feathered areas with khaki. Now khaki is not a extra opaque color, so it's going to take a little bit more. I tend to go a little bit thicker on this. You don't want to go too thick. Multiple thin layers is better than one thick layer, but to get decent coverage, and the khaki tends to cover fairly good, even though it's not an extra opaque color. So just going to go there on the face, cover all that up. You also want to get the feathers along the edge here as well. You want to get under here as well, under the brow, because that is all kind of a lighter color. In and around there. And then we're also going to hit the chest. Now this is my personal touch. The Monsters Manual doesn't show that he's got lighter feathers on the bottom, but I do this just to add a bit more interest. And I go all the way down the torso with that in even what I like to call the undercarriage, just in the back there as well, all with khaki. Alright, the next step is we're going to shade all of the feathered areas with black wash. Black washes are designed, or rather Vallejo washes are designed to add depth and shading into areas. And so basically what we're doing is we're brushing the black wash on, it pools there, and then we're just pushing it around the miniature to get it exactly where we want. What I'm doing here is I'm focusing on the feathered areas. So anywhere that kind of looks like feather, so the arms here, the back, under the neck, all of that, all the purple areas of feather, we are going to add this black wash into the recesses to create some depth. Into the back here, you can see it starts to kind of transition from a feather texture into like a fur texture. And for that fur texture, we're going to use like a sepia wash instead, just to give it a bit of a difference in shade. You can also see that some of our base coat is wiping off here just from handling it. That'll be covered once we do with the dry brush of the heavy warm gray. But for right now, we're just doing the black. Next, we're going to apply a sepia wash. So just like the black wash, the sepia wash is going to be focused all in the fur areas of the miniature. And so all along the back, you'll see that there's kind of more of a fur texture than feathers. And we're just going to apply the sepia, just like we did the black, all along those areas. And once we're done adding the sepia wash to all the purple areas, we're also going to add it to all the khaki areas, both on the face and on the torso. Now, once all the washes and shades are dry, what we're going to want to do is a all-over dry brush of the purple areas with heavy warm gray. What we're going to do with that, it has a bit of a purple tinge to it. So we're going to put it on a paper towel, as you do with dry brushing, and then we're going to wipe most of it off. So you load your brush up, and then you're going to wipe most of it off until there's just basically residue left on your brush. And then with that residue, what you're going to do is gently, you're going to brush over. That's too much already. Otherwise, you get a bit of an overbrush. But you can see gently, I'm picking out all of the texture on the purple areas with that dry brush. Now, we want to be subtle with this because you don't want it to lighten everything up too much or clog up the recesses. Basically, we're just going to go through and highlight all of those areas like this. Now again, we're focusing on the purple areas. We don't want to do any of the khaki areas yet. And with dry brushing, you want to make sure you're going against the grain. So against the texture from side to side, for example, just like this. And after we've dry brushed all of the purple areas, what we're going to do is give everything purple a once over brush with violet ink. And inks, unlike washes, are intended to tint or colorize the surface rather than add shading in the recesses. It does do that, but they're more designed for that purpose. With the ink, though, we want to make sure that we're not adding too much here because we don't want to undo all of the great work that we just did with the shading and the highlighting. So basically, we're just glazing it with a really watered down ink here. Again, just moving it across the miniature, making sure that it doesn't clog too much in the recesses or pool. And this will bring it all together. Now, once we're done that violet ink, and it's just going to dry, and inks and the shades take a little longer to dry, and so I'm just going to move to a different area. And what we're going to do is we're going to dry brush Elfic Flesh onto all of the khaki areas. They're pretty much ready for a highlight now, as long as that sepia wash is dry. And basically, we're just going to go over, making sure not to hit the purple, but just going to go ahead and dry brush this color onto these areas. We want to stay away from the recesses as much as possible and just provide a little bit of a dry brush here to bring out the color, just like that. and then also on the chest. Next, we're going to take tan, and we're going to paint the pads on the bottom of the paws, as well as basically the eyelid, which is a small little ring around the eye that borders the eye there. We want to make sure, again, not to get it onto the feathers on either side, but just want to pull that out. Got a little bit on the brow there. All right, and again on the paws down here as well, you can just see the edge of the paw on the bottom. We're going to take the same number 3 Vallejo brush here, and we're going to paint some charred brown into the inside of the beak. You want to come right up to the top of the beak there, and then right to the edge along the bottom as well. I'm going to add a little bit of water to it. We're going to take some black. What we're going to do with the black is we're going to get all of the claws. So we're going to base coat all these claws in black, just like this. Kind of goes on like nail polish. Like that. And then we're also going to do the feathers. So there's 2 rows of feathers that are black on the miniature. And in the artwork this shows as well, they kind of have black tips, but I like to do the full feather. Just add some delineation and some contrast. So basically we're going to go ahead and we're going to do black all along the bottom edge feathers, like that, as well as kind of that second row as well. So I'm also going to do these as well. So we're going to skip a row, leave that purple, and then we're going to do black along the second row. All in there. And then we're also going to add black, of course, to the eyes. And so for the eyes, we want to do is we want to work our way in side, like within out. So basically start in the middle and then work your way out. And you're just going to do a solid color of black, those dead owlbear eyes. And we're also going to add some black along the edge of the face as well. Just the tips of these feathers. Alright, and next what we're going to do here is we're going to take some orange fire and we are going to base coat the beak. I want to wet it down just a little bit, water down that color, and basically we're just going to brush it in. Make sure you get good coverage all over the beak area, being careful not to get it on the feathery areas or the furry areas. Stop right before the fur there. And also you want to get under as well onto the little toothy areas, top and bottom. Now the orange doesn't come on all that thick, so we're definitely going to want to do probably 2 coats on this. Now we're going to go back in on the beak with some gold yellow. And basically with gold yellow, what you want to do here is you want to just focus on most of the kind of the mid areas, but you want to leave a little bit of orange fire in the recess there. We're working up the highlights now, but we want to make sure we still leave some of that rich orange fire in there as well. And I kind of leave it on the edge. Make sure you got lots on the bridge, or decent coverage on the bridge, rather. And then also, we want to get it on the bottom pick out all the teeth, like so. Top and bottom. Then finally, on the very tips of the beak, we're going to get some watered down elfic flesh. I'm just going to pick out the tip here. And again, we want this watered down so that it blends, but we just want to get the tip of each of the teeth and kind of the ridge of the beak coming down. Not too much. Get the tip of the bottom, and then again we're picking out all the little teeth. Like so. Now to finish off the paws, we're just going to take some black wash and move it around so that it rests in the recesses and on the bottom here as well, just like that. Then to finish off the black feathers, what we're going to do is we're going to use the dry brush technique again, and we're just going to dry brush somber gray over those black feather areas, and that'll just again catch the top texture of those black feathers and just kind of make them stick out a bit more as a final highlight. We're also going to do it on the edge, on the face, like so. And on the claws. Again, you don't want too much paint on your brush because you want it to just be subtle. And you're basically depositing dry residue from that color onto those areas. Then to close off this stage, we're just going to take charred brown and we're going to paint the base.
Thanks for joining us for another D&D Nolzur's Marvelous Miniatures Paint Night by WizKids, Vallejo, and Realm Smith. We'll see you at the next one.